They say the old lighthouse calls to the lost. But what happens when the lost answer back? They say the old lighthouse on Blackstone Point is cursed. Standing on a jagged cliff, it's been abandoned for years, its beam long extinguished. But sailors still whisper about a faint light that glows on foggy nights, and the way their compasses spin when they pass too close. No one stays there long, not since the keeper disappeared. Mara had heard the stories, of course. Everyone in town had. But when she saw the lighthouse for the first time, she didn't feel scared. She felt drawn to it. There was something about the way it loomed over the water, its silhouette stark against the horizon. She couldn't explain it, but she needed to see it up close. What would you do if a place called to you? Would you dare to see what's beyond the door? Her friends thought she was crazy. "It's just an old building," they said. "Why would you want to go there?" Mara shrugged, hiding her unease. "I like old buildings," she lied. On a gray Saturday morning, she made her way to the lighthouse alone. The path was overgrown, the air thick with the smell of salt and decay. As she climbed the hill, the wind picked up, howling around her like a warning. But she didn't turn back. The door was unlocked, its hinges rusted and groaning as she pushed it open. Inside, the air was damp and cold, and the faint scent of mildew clung to the walls. Her footsteps echoed as she moved through the circular room, her eyes adjusting to the dim light filtering through cracked windows. And then she heard it. A whisper. "Mara." She froze. "Hello?" Her voice sounded small, swallowed by the vast emptiness of the lighthouse. She told herself it was the wind, but the sound had been so clear. So close. What if the wind wasn't the only thing whispering? Keep watching to find out what happens next. She climbed the spiral staircase, each step creaking beneath her weight. At the top, the light room was exactly as she'd imagined. Dusty, abandoned, and eerily quiet. The lens was shattered, its pieces scattered across the floor. But as she turned to leave, she noticed something strange. The shards of glass weren't reflecting her face. They were reflecting something else. A figure. She spun around, her heart pounding, but the room was empty. The air felt heavier now, pressing against her chest. She backed away, her breath coming in shallow gasps, and nearly tripped over a rusted lantern. That's when she saw it. A journal, lying open on a small wooden table in the corner. What would you do if the past tried to speak to you? Don't miss what she discovers in the journal. The pages were yellowed with age, the ink smudged but legible. It belonged to the last keeper, a man named Elias Rowe. The entries were mundane at first, weather reports, maintenance notes, but as she flipped through, the tone changed. "I hear them at night," one entry read. "Voices in the wind. They call my name over and over. They want me to join them." Mara's hands shook as she turned to the final page. The words were scrawled in a frantic hand, barely legible. "The light is alive. It sees. It knows. And it won't let me leave." A loud crash shattered the silence. Mara whipped around, the journal slipping from her hands. One of the windows had blown open, and the wind howled through the room like a living thing. She tried to steady her breathing, but the whispers were back, louder now. "Mara, don't go. What if the place you entered didn't want to let you leave?" See how Mara faces the impossible. She bolted down the staircase, her footsteps echoing like gunshots. But as she reached the bottom, the door wouldn't budge. She yanked on the handle, panic rising in her throat, but it was as if the door had fused with the frame. And then she felt it. A hand on her shoulder. She turned slowly, her heart hammering in her chest. No one was there, but the air around her felt charged, like a storm about to break. The whispers swirled, growing louder and more frantic. "Stay with us." Her vision blurred as she stumbled back, her head spinning. The walls seemed to close in, the shadows deepening, and then she saw them. Faces pressed against the walls, their eyes hollow and pleading. Dozens of them, their mouths moving in unison. "Don't leave." What would you do if the walls themselves begged you to stay? Can she escape what's inside? Mara screamed, her voice breaking. She didn't remember how she got the door open, only that she was suddenly outside. gasping for air. The whispers had stopped, but the silence was almost worse. She turned back toward the lighthouse, its silhouette dark against the gray sky. The light was on. Her blood ran cold as she stared at the beam sweeping across the water. She could have sworn she saw a figure standing in the window at the top watching her, and then it whispered, just once more, "You will be back."